Can you hear me now? I was on mute all that time. I am so sorry about that. What a great way to start the show, huh? Babbling, nobody hears me. Thank you, Shauna. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Glad you're here. Thank you. Thank you. I'd be lost without you, hon. Appreciate it. So, where was I? You could read my lips, right? So, again, basically, just want to say thanks for being here. Glad you're here. And the algorithm said that you are supposed to be here, so here you are. And we're going to take our journey into sobriety together. And I do welcome you with open arms. If you're ready to leave the old life behind and start building a new one, or just strengthening your sobriety with a little help from God or your higher power, whatever that is for you, stick around. This channel's for you. And this is our journey. And if you have any questions or comments, or if you get anything out of this at all, I do invite you to please click the thumbs up button and subscribe. And I would be grateful for that. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. So let's see where we are. Okay. So resources. What am I using for resources for all of my live streams here? Well, the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous is a big one. And it is a big book. Hardcover, this one. And available on Amazon, of course. We also use the NA big book, the big blue book of NA. Also, a big part of it is the Celebrate Recovery Bible. Can you see that? Oh, there it is. Barely, too bright, right? Too bright. Celebrate Recovery Study Bible, also available on Amazon. And currently that's the main focus of my recovery is Celebrate Recovery. I did grow up in sobriety with AA, and it was a blessing. And I have nothing but good things to say about AA, always. I have been to NA, of course, as well. But Celebrate Recovery is now my recovery group of choice. And it's an adventure, something a little different, and very enjoyable, very enjoyable. And it keeps me sober. How about that? That's a biggie. I also got a couple of other books that we're going to be looking into eventually. And I like to do some readings out of these different books here. Also AA publications, AA World Services, Inc., available on Amazon, of course. What isn't? Which is, can you see that? I don't know if you can see that. Let's go back here. Living Sober. Living Sober. And it's a small book, but it's got a lot of interesting and excellent information in it. And the other one is Came to Believe. Came to Believe. Another one, this one is full of stories of people, real stories that made it into recovery, got sober, and stayed there. So we'll look into those eventually. Both of those books down the road. And maybe the next live stream, I'll do one on one of those, probably Living Sober. Because everybody would like to know how to live sober, I'm sure. It's a new challenge for people that are addicted, have been addicted to alcohol or drugs. We say alcohol or drugs, but you know, alcohol is a drug. We know that. The point is, there's a vast amount of knowledge out there, and I hope to pass a little bit of it on to you as we go. Okay. So, where are we this evening? Oh, yeah. I was going through some stories and thinking about my own sobriety, of which I have 5,000 plus days, 40 plus years of soaking in alcohol. And I was thinking about that thing that can happen when you're in recovery. And does it matter if you're in recovery for a week, a month, a year, 20 years, 15 years, 50 years? Does it matter? Not really, in my opinion. Just my opinion. Does it matter? Because I think with the wrong thinking, the wrong mindset, it can happen to anyone at any time if you're not careful. What is it? The relapse before the relapse. And how to recognize those warning signs before it happens. I believe I was talking to someone recently, and they had a lot of time. I believe that they said 20 years. Now they've got 6 months. Unbelievable? No, believable. They relapsed. Now, what if their relapse didn't start the day that they picked up or used? What if it started way back, 3, 4, 5 weeks before that, or 2 months, or 6 months? What if it started with something so small and so quiet that you didn't even notice it was happening? And what if the people around you didn't notice it either? Well, that's what we're talking about today. Okay, we're dedicating this live stream to that nasty word, relapse. Look, it happens. It's happened to me. Now, thank God, I didn't have a lot of time. It was early on in my sobriety. Maybe a month, 2 months, 3 months, relapse. Go back at it. A month, 2 months, 3 months, relapse. In AA, the club that I went to, they gave out a little poker chip, a white poker chip, for your first meeting up to 24 hours, I think it was, or up to 30 days. Yeah, it was up to 30 days, a white chip. In other words, you're making a commitment to stay sober. Follow the program. Well, by the end of the second year, I think I had a drawer full of white chips. This is a hardhead. Finally got it, but it took me a while. So, what we're talking about is relapse, not the relapse itself, what happened before it. The relapse before the relapse. the part that nobody sees coming, the part that if you could see it, you might be able to stop it. So I'm going to ask you to sit with a question here over the next 30 minutes or so, and we'll come back to it. And the answer is going to be more specific and more useful than you might expect right now. Now, the question is, what does the beginning of a relapse actually look like? Before anybody would even call it a relapse. What does the beginning of a relapse look like? Think about it. Okay, so you're a recovering addict, alcoholic, whatever type of addict. And it doesn't matter, what your addiction is. It could be alcohol, drugs, food, money, gambling, whatever. Why would you be interested in relapse? Well, maybe something's been feeling off lately for you. Nothing that you can point to exactly. You can't put your finger on it. Just a certain uneasiness, a little more restlessness than usual, a little more irritability. Oh yeah, I've been there. And you don't know if it means anything or if you're just, hitting a few bumps in the road. Maybe you're even a sponsor or a family member. Maybe you're just a friend of somebody in recovery, and you watch them, that someone that you love, go back out. It's so disheartening. And you carried that question within you. And I've done this personally. Was there something else I should have seen? Was there something I could have said? Was there something I could have done? Well, what we're talking about is something that recovery literature calls the relapse process, because it is a process. The understanding that a relapse is not just a single event, it's a progression. It's a series of small, often invisible shifts in the way that a person thinks, feels, and behaves. And that happens long before they pick up. And recognizing those shifts in behavior in yourself, maybe in somebody that you love, is one of the most powerful tools in long-term recovery. If you can see it way ahead of time. So let's start by taking apart the most common misunderstanding about relapse, and that is that relapse is something that happens. A decision made on a specific day. It's a moment of weakness, a failure of willpower. That is totally incomplete and misleading. And the reason it matters that it's incomplete is that you believe relapse is just an event, a single bad moment. Then the only warning sign that you're looking for is the moment itself. And by then, it's already happened. Too late. Well, the research on relapse and the other collective wisdom of decades of 12-step recovery programs, it tells a different story. Relapse is a process. It begins in the mind and the emotions, sometimes weeks, months, before a drink or drug is taken, used. And it moves through predictable, identifiable stages that once you know them, you can recognize in yourself and in others. You know, in recovery literature, there's a framework that describes the 3 stages of the relapse process: emotional relapse, mental relapse, and physical relapse. I've seen all 3 in myself and in others. It happens. The physical relapse, the using, is the last stage. And by the time it happens, the person's already been in relapse, and they've been there for a long time. Now, what I hope to do here is just kind of walk you through each stage, giving you a little detail. Because knowing what the road is, you'll know if you've taken a wrong turn or if someone that you love has taken a wrong turn. You'll see it ahead of time, and that's important. So, looking at the stages, 3 stages. First stage, emotional relapse. What is that? Well, that's the beginning. And the reason that most people miss it is that during emotional relapse, the person's not thinking about using. They may not have any conscious desire to drink or pick up, but the emotional and behavioral patterns that set the stage for using are gathering and growing. So what does it look like? What does emotional relapse look like? Well, first of all, isolation. Person starts pulling back, doesn't go to meetings anymore, skipping meetings. AA, NA, Celebrate Recovery, whatever the program is, they're checked out for a while. Maybe they do go and they just sit there and leave. If they have a sponsor, maybe they, stop talking to their sponsor for whatever reason. They get quieter in a relationship that was based on honesty. Oh, yeah. They're physically present, but emotionally, they're absent. The walls go back up, and they may not even notice that it's happening. But if you're outside, you'll notice. It's always good to have somebody else that can see you. Sponsor, perfect. Somebody you can trust. All right, what's another element? Not asking for help when they need it. One of the core practices of recovery is the simple, humbling act of reaching out when you're struggling. Makes sense. Saying to another person, look, I'm having problems here. I'm having a hard time. Help if you can. In emotional relapse, the reaching out stops. Communicating stops. The person that's in that relapse, emotional relapse, starts managing their own affairs, their own life alone again. They're closing off from the outside world. They tell themselves, I'm fine, I'm fine. Maybe they don't want to burden anyone with their problem. Or they'll call tomorrow. I'll call him tomorrow. I'll call my sponsor tomorrow. And of course, tomorrow never comes. Doesn't happen. What's another element of emotional relapse? They stop taking care of themselves. Maybe they're not sleeping, eating. Maybe they're eating the wrong things at the wrong times and not enough of it. Um, Maybe they don't pray. Um, all these factors come into play when you're looking at emotional relapse. Oh, here's a big one. Emotional dishonesty. How about that? When people ask you, how you doing today, Joe? You say, fine. I'm not Joe, by the way. I'm Glenn. But you'll say you're fine even when you're not fine. Nothing dramatic about that. It's just another way to move away from being honestly honest. Honestly honest? I guess so. And that move matters. Moving away, separating. Mood changes are another element of emotional relapse. Oh, yeah. More irritability, more anxiety. Hi, mate. Oh, the topic. Okay, thank you. The topic is the relapse before the relapse in recovery. So, by the way, if you are in recovery, just put a little note in there how long you've been sober, if you are. And if you're not, that's okay. Just hang around. It'll grab you sooner or later. So emotional relapse is another one. Mood changes. You get disconnected from everything. Irritability, anxiety, low-grade sadness, restlessness. Yeah, it's all part of that emotional relapse. Now, stage 2 in relapse is mental relapse. You know, this is where it becomes harder to miss, but where the pull becomes so much stronger, because that's this step, this stage is when the mind starts actually entertaining the idea of using. And not necessarily planning it, not necessarily wanting it with full commitment yet, but the thought enters. Oh, hi, yes, it is about addictions. Yes, absolutely. And we're talking about relapsing. In other words, I'm just explaining for the chat that are jumping in here, relapsing. It's possible for anyone to relapse in sobriety if they're not aware of what we're talking about now. Mental relapse. You can have a mental relapse before you pick up, before you use. One of the things a lot of addicts do is glamorize the past. Oh, yes. And I've done it. And listen, did I have a blast sometimes? Did I have a great time going out, partying? Yeah, I did. I had a lot of fun. Until I didn't. When I stepped over that line. And the consequences. The shame. The destruction. Well, if you're glamorizing the past, of course, you forget about that. You forget about the wreckage and you remember the parts that felt good. the relief, the sense of escape. The brain's not being dishonest on purpose, okay? Your brain wants to be honest, but that thinking of addiction has a particular way of making the past look better than it was. Oh, welcome from Turkey. Welcome. Welcome. And I'm sure that they have Alcoholics Anonymous in Turkey. They're worldwide. Another aspect of mental relapse, you think about people, places, and things that you encountered when you were abusing, old friends, old neighborhoods, old bars, old rituals. These start appearing in the mind with a kind of a nostalgic feeling. Oh, I miss that. No, I don't miss it. No. You miss your old drug dealer? The one that was out to kill you? To kill you at any cost? Do you miss them? Really? No. No. Another mental relapse, bargaining. It's very specific. The person starts to have conversations in their own head that sound like, well, maybe I could just have one. Oh, have I done that? Way back. Oh, yeah. Tried that. Maybe I could just have one. No. No, it does not work that way. And as a matter of fact, that one could be your last one. You know that. And I've seen it. I've lived it. But that's all up here. Maybe that wasn't as bad as I thought it was. I could just have just a little bit. Just a little bit. Just to remember what it felt. Oh, yeah, just a little bit. Right. But remember, it can take you out. Okay? Another element of the mental relapse, perfect for us addicts, right? Lying or being secretive. Being vague about where you've been. Leaving things out in conversation with your sponsor that you would have once said directly. Leaving things out when you're speaking to your spouse or your significant other or family members. Just conveniently not mentioning that. Oh yeah, I drove by my dealer's house today just to see if he was home. Mental relapse is where the window is still open. The person is in conflict. Part of them doesn't want to use. Part of them's being pulled toward it. And that conflict is actually an opportunity, because if the person can reach out in that moment to a sponsor, to a meeting, to a therapist, to their higher power, then that conflict can be resolved without a relapse. But they have to take that action, right? Have to. without intervention, either from another person or from the person themselves, saying, wait a minute, what am I doing? Mental relapse is the slide right into physical relapse. Okay. And this is what most people think of when they hear the word relapse. It's the first drink, the first hit, the moment of use and abuse. And here's what's important to understand about this. By the time a person gets to physical relapse, they've already been in relapse emotionally and mentally for a time. It could be weeks, could be months. And then physical relapse is not the beginning of the problem. It's the visible expression of a problem that's been building and building and building for a long time. And this matters for two big reasons. First, because it means the intervention point, either from the outside or from the inside, it's not the moment of use, it's the weeks before it when the emotional patterns first start shifting. That's when relapse can be interrupted. And second, because it means that if a person has relapsed physically, the work of understanding what happened, the real work, is not about the day that they used. It's about tracing back the road that led there. And understanding that road is how you don't take it again. If you're lucky enough to make it through the relapse. And it doesn't matter, again, drugs or alcohol, it doesn't matter. If you make it through the relapse, then you do have a second chance. Or a third, with the grace of God. Or fourth. But the thing about relapse, and I say this from my own experience, again, it's my opinion. For many people, it's like playing Russian roulette with a loaded gun and putting it up to your head and, well, spinning that chamber there that holds the bullets, if that's the right word, and pulling the trigger, knowing that there's one cylinder, one that was left out. One bullet was left out. You spin it and good luck. That's your relapse, in my opinion. That's how I visualize it. Something from scripture, because I think it really speaks to the very heart of why the relapse process begins so quietly and why it's so easy to miss. Proverbs 4, verses 23 through 27. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Keep your mouth free of perversity. Keep corrupt talk from your lips. Let your eyes look straight ahead. Fix your gaze directly before you. Give careful thought to the paths for your feet and be steadfast in all your ways. Do not turn to the right or to the left. Keep your foot from evil. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. That one sentence is the entire framework of relapse prevention stated in one line. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. The heart, in the biblical sense, is not just the emotions, it's the inner life, the inner soul, the thoughts, the will, the desires, the things that you dwell on, things that you let in. And what this verse is saying is that the condition of that inner life determines everything else. Everything you do flows from it. Pretty simple. Emotional relapse is a failure to guard the heart. The isolation, the poor self-care, the emotional dishonesty, the ending of daily spiritual practice, all of it is the heart becoming unguarded, exposed, vulnerable to the things it was once being deliberately protected from. You open yourself up to destruction. And the verse's instruction, give careful thought to the paths of your feet. That's a call to the kind of self-awareness that relapse prevention requires. Careful, honest, continuous attention to where you're going and what road you're on. The person in early emotional relapse has stopped giving careful thought to that path. They're on autopilot. And autopilot for someone in recovery is dangerous. Not because they lack willpower, but because the disease of addiction is not on autopilot. It's always paying attention, always ready to jump. Okay, let's get more specific, because I think, talking about warning signs in general is only so useful. The warning signs that people miss aren't the dramatic ones, they're the little ones, the subtle ones, the ones that feel ordinary, the ones that have a perfectly reasonable explanation in the moment and only look like warning signs. Okay, warning signs. I'm going to give you a list of 12. Now, you don't need to memorize them. You can go back and watch this again if you so desire. But I'm going to give you 12. Just like there were 12 steps, there's 12 warning signs to relapse. Okay? You don't need to check off the list, but hearing them described might help you recognize something in yourself or someone you love that you might otherwise dismiss. Okay, and just say, oh, that's just nothing. I'm not going to think about it or worry about it. Okay, pardon me. Need a little water. Good old H2O. Saves the day. So, warning signs into relapse. Here we go. Warning sign 1. Skipping meetings without a good reason. And not feeling bad about it. Now, I've cut meetings before, not for any particular reason that I wanted not to go, because I was lazy or whatever. I mean, if I missed a meeting, I was most likely sick, ill. And I felt guilty. So if you skip a meeting without a good reason and you don't feel bad about it, there's a problem. Life happens. You do miss meetings occasionally. But the warning sign, again, it's not just missing the meeting. It's the absence of discomfort about missing it. When I missed a meeting, I honestly felt guilty for missing that meeting. 2, warning sign 2. You become selective about what you share at meetings. So what does that mean? It means that they share the wins and the insights and the gratitude, but they don't share the struggle that's actually going on inside them. It's not dishonest by intention. It's the beginning of that wall going up. And once the wall's up in meeting rooms, then it goes everywhere else. Number 3 warning sign, defensiveness that feels like confidence. Defensiveness that feels like confidence. What's that? Well, as I said earlier, if somebody asks you, hey, how are things really going? How you feeling? What's new? And the person says something like, I'm fine. Why does everybody keep asking me that? Not defensive, but it's a signal. Because real confidence in recovery is followed by openness and honesty, and not by the closing off of people genuinely interested in your well-being. Warning sign 4, comparing their situation to others favorably. So here your mind starts to do kind of gymnastics. I'm not as bad as that person was when they relapsed. I have more control than they did. My situation's totally different. Now, these comparisons are not based on real self-knowledge. They're ego protecting. Done that, the person who's really solid in recovery isn't measuring themselves against other people's relapses. That's no. No. Warning sign number 5. An increase in stress with a decrease in coping tools. That's kind of a long one. Okay, what does it all mean? It means that life gets harder for them. Maybe they lost a job, having problems in a relationship, maybe a health scare, family conflict. And at the same time, the daily practices that help manage stress start dropping off. They stop doing them. Exercise, prayer, meditation, honest conversations, more stress, fewer tools. Your disease is waiting for exactly this combination for you to go out and relapse. How about that? Okay, warning sign 6. Reconnecting with old using friends. Oh boy. Well, it's a tough one. Sometimes this presents itself as innocent. Okay, an old friend reaches out after years. The person says, I'm strong enough now to have this conversation. I don't need to avoid everyone from my past forever. And that might be true, but the timing matters enormously. Okay, you've got to be solid in your recovery. It's the environment of the old life reassembling itself around a person who's already starting to drift back. So if you're drifting back toward the old life and then you meet somebody from the old life, that can be a problem. What am I hearing over here? Bear with me. Somebody's crying at the door. What do you want? What do you want? It's the kitty. It's kitty time. Oh my goodness. She gets lonely. Yeah. Okay. Talks to me. All right. Warning sign 7, starting to minimize the consequences of past use. Oh, boy. Yeah, it wasn't that bad. I was only locked up for, I don't know, 30 days. That wasn't bad. It wasn't as bad as I made it sound at first. People exaggerate those things when they're trying to justify sobriety, or de-exaggerate. Either way, it's not good. Um, the softening of the past that, yeah, it wasn't that bad. It's a warning sign because it's the mind actively preparing the ground for using, for relapse, and making it look like a viable option again. And it's not. It is not. Warning sign 8. Oh, volunteering less in service roles. Yeah. Anybody that's, been in recovery and goes to meetings, a lot of times there's people that, set up chairs or clean up after the meetings or, make the coffee. Well, when you start volunteering less, maybe you used to do those things in service, but you stop showing up. Or maybe you're somebody who used to answer calls from newcomers. You stop picking up. Maybe you're a sponsor and you used to check in. And instead of checking in, you wait to be called. When service starts shrinking, it's definitely worth a question. Why? Warning sign number 9. A return of the belief that they can manage it alone. Step 1 of every 12-step program is an admission of powerlessness, and that admission is not a one-time event at the beginning of recovery. It's an ongoing, daily orientation toward reality. When a person starts feeling quietly, without stating it out loud, that they have this handled, that they don't really need the sponsor, the meetings, the accountability, the way that they once did, that is a warning sign. Not because needing help is permanent weakness, but because the disease of addiction is specifically and uniquely able to create the illusion of control as a precursor to taking it away completely. Think about that. Warning sign 10, changes in sleep, appetite, and mood that go unaddressed. Physical self-regulation and emotional stability are deeply linked. When sleep becomes disrupted, when appetite swings in either direction, when there's prolonged mood changes and the person dismisses or explains away rather than bringing into honest conversation, the nervous system is sending messages. And in recovery, the body often knows before the mind does that something is going wrong. Physical regulation is important. Sleep right, eat right. Warning sign number 11. Prayer and meditation become empty rituals or disappear entirely. For people whose recovery is anchored in spiritual foundation, as it is in AA, NA, Celebrate Recovery, the erosion of genuine spiritual practice is one of the earliest and most reliable warning signs. Not because God abandons the person, but because the person has stopped doing the thing that keeps the channel open to God. Prayer becomes going through the motions, or it stops altogether. And the inner life no longer being fed by honest spiritual contact, starts to fail. And I've been guilty of that myself. And finally, warning sign 12. A big one, a growing secret life. Yeah, this is the culmination of many of the others. The person is thinking things they're not saying, going places they're not mentioning, feeling things they are actively hiding. Not necessarily about using, but just secret things. A second, private life. It's growing larger and larger, while the shared life is getting smaller. The meetings, the honest conversations, the relationships with a sponsor, shrinking. And this is one of the clearest signs that a person is approaching mental collapse territory. And what happens then? Relapse. Because using when it comes will happen in that secret space. Think about that. Passage in Psalm 32, verses 3 through 5. And that describes with devastating accuracy what it feels like to carry something hidden, to live with an unaddressed internal reality that is quietly consuming you. When I kept silent, my bones wasted away through my groaning all day long. For day and night your hand was heavy on me. My strength was sapped as in the heat of summer. Then I acknowledged my sin to you and did not cover up my iniquity. I said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord, and you forgave the guilt of my sin. What are they saying? When I kept silent, my bones wasted away. Well, that's the experience of the person moving through emotional and mental relapse without telling anybody. They're keeping it silent. It's not just about the specific thoughts about using. It's about everything. The fear, the resentment, the growing restlessness, the fact that things are not okay. The silence is what allows it to grow. And the relief described in verse 5 doesn't come from solving the problem. It comes from disclosure. I acknowledged my sin. I said, I will confess. And the speaking of the thing is where the wasting away stops. Not because the confession fixes everything, but because what is brought into the light cannot stay exactly what it was in the dark. Honesty is disruptive to the relapse process in a way that nothing else is. Honesty. The antidote to the secret life, it's not discipline, it's transparency. It's the courage. And it does require courage to say to one honest, trusted person, here's what's actually been happening to me. Here's what's going on. Here's what I've not been saying. Here is where I am. That conversation in the middle of the relapse process changes things completely. Sometimes everything. Sometimes it stops relapse in the tracks right there. All right, so let's talk about what to actually do, because awareness without action is just anxiety with a name. Remember that. Awareness without action is just anxiety without a name. If you see yourself in any of this, in the emotional relapse patterns and the warning signs and the description of the mental conflict. Here's what matters right now. Not tomorrow, but right now. The first thing, tell somebody today. Tell somebody today. Not in a big dramatic way, not after you fully figured out what to say. Just contact one person, your sponsor, a close friend in recovery, a therapist, somebody that you trust, your pastor, recovery group leader, and say the simplest possible version of the truth. Something's off. I need to talk. Send those 5 words as a text or leave a message. They interrupt the momentum of the process by breaking the isolation that is fueling it. Once you get it out, the disease of addiction grows in silence and secrecy. It can't survive exposure to the light nearly as well. Every person who's ever come back from the edge of a relapse without going over, they'll tell you, there was a moment when I told someone, and that moment mattered more than any technique or strategy. I got it out. I told someone. We talked. I was honest. And then go back to the basics. You know, whatever you have let slip, meetings, prayers, daily inventory, contact with your sponsor, exercise, sleep. Go back to it. Not all on the same day. Not all in the same day. You don't have to do that. Not all in the same hour. But choose one thing and do it. Not because one thing is going to fix everything, but at least you're telling yourself you are not powerless. You can do something. You can take an action. And then that momentum will shift positively. Go back to the basics. Get honest. And if you've relapsed, well, if you've already relapsed, if the picking up and the using has already started, listen, please. The relapse isn't the final word. In the big book, it says more will be revealed. And that includes the truth that people relapse and come back. Sometimes, many times. But listen. Listen. You can come back, and the path back begins where you're standing right now. Don't use relapse as evidence that, oh, I'm beyond recovery, I can't do it. No. Use it as information. Go back through everything that we've mentioned today and find out where your relapse problem started. Because it started somewhere before the day that you used and abused. And understanding where it started, when it started, is the most useful thing that you can do right now. Not to punish yourself with that understanding, but to equip yourself, to give yourself the knowledge. You're not too far gone. Recovery doesn't have a cutoff date. And the person sitting in relapse is the same person who got sober before, found out that it was possible, and that person is still in there. Remember that. All right, so there we are, pretty much wrapped up with the relapse before the relapse. There's a lot of information on relapse out there, and I think it's very, very important because relapse, you may only have one relapse in you. You may only have one. And no, it's not impossible. Guard your heart. Guard your heart. Tell someone. Keep going. Keep moving forward. And if you heard anything that, if you got anything out of this my diatribe today, this morning, then please click a like and a subscribe, and that'll help me get the message out to more people that need it. And I appreciate you very much. And it's a freebie. I do not charge. I do not charge. Absolutely free. So I hope you had a good one. I'll see you next time for sure. God willing, and the creek don't rise. Remember the 3 pillars of sobriety: trust God, clean house, and help others. God bless you. God bless all of our veterans. And remember, somebody out there loves you. See you next time.